Hello everyone, welcome back to the Alabama Woodworker. My name is Hui. In this video, I complete the dining table by constructing the tabletop, gluing up the base assembly, sanding, applying dye, and finishing with a wiping varnish. Let's go to the SketchUp drawing so I can better explain the construction of the tabletop.
The finished tabletop will measure 42 inches by 74 inches by 13/16 of an inch thick. In this drawing, I designed the tabletop to have a 60-degree under bevel, but ended up applying a 45-degree under bevel and a swept 1/4 inch round over to the top edge. I'll explain more of that later in the video. Here's a general rule of thumb. Under bevels help create the effect of a thinner tabletop, while an over bevel creates the effect of a thicker tabletop. This is a pretty thin design, so I wanted a minimalistic look.
I have all my panels milled up for my tabletop. Now I'm going to mark the locations for the domino tenons that I'm going to use for alignment so that the panels don't shift because it's so wide during glue up. I removed the glue squeeze out from the tabletop and sanded to 80 grit. I'm now going to make a 45-degree beveled angled cut on the tabletop edge and then make a 90-degree cut a 1/2 inch from that edge. That'll give me a good starting point to shaping the tabletop edge. My wife and I really like this 45-degree under bevel, so we're just going to keep it the way it is. One thing that my wife did ask was a softening of the edge where our arms and our hands are going to hit the tabletop that would be a lot more drastic than just using a block plane or sandpaper. So using a test piece and a 1/4 inch round over bit, I created this sweeping round over. All the edges are chamfered. I'm going to do a final sanding now to 180 grit. I finished hand planing and sanding all of my pieces, and now I'm going to glue up the 2 leg assemblies. After that, I'm going to apply a Transtint dye to all the pieces to give me a nice even color. Once I'm done applying the dye, then I'll glue up the rest of the aprons and the cross supports and the apron extensions. I'm using a liquid hide glue because it gives me a good long open time to assemble all this joinery. On a test piece, I applied a mixture of a 1/2 ounce of dark walnut Transtint dye with 2 cups of denatured alcohol. I applied this dye to try and even out the coloring on the walnut, and I like the results, so now I'm going to apply it to my dining room table. I've applied dye to the dining room table, including the top, which I did off camera. I'm now going to do the glue up of the apron, the stretcher, the cross supports, and the apron extensions. The base assembly is all glued up and out of the clamps. Now I need to drill and mount these skirt washers, which will allow the tabletop to expand and contract with seasonal changes. These skirt washers will be attached to the cross supports, the apron, and the top supports. With the base assembly turned upside down towards the underside of the tabletop, I can mark the location for the threaded inserts.